I'm not exactly sure what you're basing, your information on, if you did a poll or there's been a poll. Certainly, I do listen to the radio, and I know all the banter. I'm aware of, what's being said. But I can't comment. I know internally we didn't canvass our 19,000 seat holders, and we don't have an answer, to what you're proposing. So probably the best way to answer your question is we care about what our fans think. We think they're great fans and they support us, and we are going to try to give them something better and better every year. But a lot of times, and at the end of the day, we're forced to make decisions quickly, and sometimes decisions on information that we have that a lot of our fans don't have. And sometimes that decision might not be what the fan wants. But over the course of time, I think they've become to trust us, that it will be the right decision.
Do you feel like you said that, Mike's under contract, do you feel like you publicly have to say either way about next season for him?
Like right now?
No, not right now, but I mean like at a certain time frame, like before the draft.
I think what I said earlier was he's under contract for 2 more years. If that changes, if there's anything to share with you, we will.
Mitch, when it comes to Kobe and his latest injury, I think the original timetable was about 6 weeks at the end of this, the last 17 weeks of the season.
Right.
Does that give you any pause as far as him not being the Kobe that we're used to seeing roll through things and come back?
Yeah, it's been discussed a little bit. I mean, somebody asked me the question, about missing a full year, and I forget who I was talking to, but I hesitate to use my name and Kobe's name in the same sentence. But I missed 2 years about 30 years ago, and when I came back during training camp, and I felt, even though I was gone 2 years, I felt because it was training camp, I felt like I entered the season with everybody else, and I did everything from the beginning with everybody else, and I didn't feel as if I was behind. And I think if Kobe had been injured and now we're talking about him coming back next January or February, I think that might be a little bit different, but we expect him to be back at 100% for training camp, and knowing his work ethic and what he's going to do this summer, I don't think that there's a great concern about it. Clearly he's getting older. He can't do things today that he did 7 years ago. But because there's a training camp, and I don't think it's a big concern.
Mitch, when you reflect back on those rebuilding years earlier this decade, when Kobe was pretty vocal about his displeasure with the organization's direction and criticizing the front office in 2007, what were challenges, frustrations with handling that?
Just the, I guess, the environment. That's probably a perfect example of, I think a lot of our fans were upset at that point in time, that maybe he would do that. And, we didn't trade him. And we thought that was the right thing to do, which was not to trade him. So looking back on it, certainly, although everybody might not have agreed at that time, it was the right thing. It was the right decision. So I guess it's similar to some degree, but once again, we want the same thing, and Kobe's on board. I think his comment, 3 or 4 months ago was that he'd run through a brick wall for this organization, and that's how he feels. So we know at the end of the day he's going to be on board.
Would you say his frustration level with this season is fairly similar to that, or sort of lesser degree? How would you compare?
I would say it's fairly similar, yeah. Absolutely.
Any potential franchise changes in this draft?
Yeah, I think there are.
More than 1 or 2?
Once again, well, I think there could be, I don't know who's coming in yet. You're hearing guys that are declaring, and all it really is just some kid coming out and saying, I'm coming out. They have to actually go through a process and put their name in. So we really don't know who's coming out until the NBA sends the list out, which will be coming out in several weeks. But based on what you hear, I think there are, several players, depending upon how quickly they develop, can be really, really good players in this league.
Admittedly, this could be getting a little ahead of myself because Kobe only played 6 games this year. But when he signed the extension, you're thinking, and the franchise is thinking that there's only 2 more years of his career, or could you envision a scenario where he would tack on another extension beyond that?
I suppose it's possible. I don't know. I mean, he was talking about retirement, before we gave him the extension. He wasn't quite sure what he's going to do. So when we did the extension, it was the maximum extension allowed. We couldn't have given him a 3rd year even if we wanted to. So we were really limited to the rules under the collective bargaining agreement. So he got the 2 years. I'm not sure if he's thinking down the road to play some more. But if he has 2 good years, there's no reason why he can't continue to play. Other players of his stature, have done it. I don't think he expected the 2 injuries, and that may change a little bit how he's thinking about things. But if he has a good year this year and a good year next year, and he's healthy and he feels great, he may consider to play more.
Mitch, I know it's a long shot I'd get an answer to this question. I know you have draft workouts, but say somehow you guys got the number 1 pick. Do you guys know who you would take?
Maybe.
Am I allowed to ask a follow-up of who that would be?
No.
I'd ask.
But even though there's uncertainty, obviously, with whether Powell's going to re-sign here, when you look back at his time here with championships and then the past few years with the uncertainty with trade situations, how would you weigh what his legacy has been?
Unfortunately, I've been here for many years, and unfortunately, that's happened a lot. We've had great players, that come through, and it's always sad if they don't come back or they retire or they get traded. And I could start with James Worthy and just go through where we are today. So that's it's a tough part of the business. To see a player that's given so much, maybe move on if that's in fact what happens. But 2 of the banners in this building are here because of Powell, and he's revered in this town. He was welcomed, with open arms when we traded for him, and he's been an ideal citizen. Every year he's been productive. So his legacy here will carry on no matter what happens this summer.
Mitch, you were able to get a lot of players on 1-year deals who weren't necessarily proven players in the league. From the guys that you saw that met your standards and you were interested in bringing back, would you look to have that same financial flexibility and just sign them on short-term deals, or would you like to?
I think that's possible. Once again, it's going to depend on the marketplace and what the market determines for free agents. We liked, a bunch of the guys that we brought in this year, and a couple of them got injured, so it shortened the window to look at them. But that's a possibility. I mean, they may say, "Listen, I'd love to be with the Lakers. I know you're saving money for next year. Would you give me more this year, and I'll sign a 1 year?" Or maybe they'll say, "Well, I got this offer from another team in the East Coast, and it's 4 years at this number. I'd love to stay, but I can't." So I don't know how that's going to play out. But yes, it's possible, that we continue forward with guys on 1-year deals. And once again, I thought we had a great opportunity to look at some very talented players this year. Our goal wasn't to audition players. Our goal was to win games. But because of the ability we had to bring them here to Los Angeles, and once again, that goes back to, Dr. Buss and the legacy here. We had an option. We had the ability to bring some players here under market value, and we were rewarded, and I think they were rewarded with good years. So they're going to have, some decisions to make, this summer.
Is that financial flexibility still the goal, though, going into the free agency?
It's been important for the last 2 to 3 years, actually longer than that, and it's going to remain important But once again, what we don't want to do is use it unwisely.